Welcome to my gathering basket. My name is Danelle. Thank you for giving me a little bit of your time today as we talk about some yarny things, some state fair adventures, and a little bit of homesteading business. It's been an adventurous couple weeks. Last time I was a little bit frazzled as I was just getting ready to go to our church's Bible school program to teach. We got that done, and oh my goodness. In fact, I almost didn't record today. I was thinking that it had only been a week. So almost missed this time. I was actually looking at my calendar and realized, oh my goodness, it really had been 2 weeks since I talked to you last. So welcome to my corner of Southwest Missouri and my craft room. I've got a little bit to show you. The biggest thing I've been working on really has been getting everything ready to go to the state fair. I need to get all of my entries delivered to my friend that is going to be taking them up to the middle of the state to the fair. It's a couple hours drive away, and she's collecting things from people in our area to take them up to enter them. I'm actually going to be out of town during the state fair this year, so I won't be able to take a trip up there and see how all the entries did and what things have been entered and look at the animals. And it was a lot of fun the last year, but looking forward to 2020, I guess, already. But I did get all of my entries put together. Barely. I just got them put together today. It's actually quite a little bit of work. I thought about making a little bit of a video of how I got everything prepped for sending in, but it really didn't turn out all that interesting. So I'll just show you a little bit. First off, our guild here in Southwest Missouri put together a couple entries this year. You're able to, individuals, groups can sponsor a category in the state fair here in Missouri. And I'm imagining that most states are the same or similar kind of events. So you might look into yours wherever you live. But there weren't any. We have lots of hand spinning, lots of knitting, lots of crochet categories, but there wasn't a single category for using your hand spun. And for me, that's a game changer when it comes to spinning. At least it was for me. So our guild got together and put together, I think it's 5 different categories for different items you can enter using your hand spun. And since I was behind getting this together, I thought I really needed to enter some things, and I'd hoped to enter all 5. I got 3, so I'm going to consider that a good amount this year. But my little gnome is going to go to fair. He is going to be in the home decor entry out of handspun. And I showed you this and put all the details in several episodes ago. But this kind of gives you an idea of what's involved, at least in entering. We had to have all of our items registered a couple weeks ago. I think I told you about that, which just meant for me, you can either print out an entry form or go online, which is what I did because I'm never in enough time to mail in my entries. So go online and basically fill out your intentions. I am going to enter this item in this category. Here's a description of it. And then they send you tickets or tags. So this is the entry tag that I had for the gnome, and it shows what class it's in, what category, but then you have to rip it all apart, take off the claim forms at the bottom. So I went through and tore all those off, and then assemble them so your identity is hidden. And then in these categories, we had, when you sponsor a category, you can stipulate any requirements for it. So what we did was we asked for a brief description of the item, the hand spinning, any special techniques, what the fiber was, and then also a small sample of the fiber itself. Now, when I made this gnome, I can't remember when I finished it, but when I made this, I was not anticipating entering this in the fair. So what I actually had to do, and I did this for a couple different things because they were completed before I knew what the categories were going to be. I actually took little pieces of the yarn that was left over, which fortunately I had, took it apart, unspun it kind of in my fingers, and carded it so I would have little bits of roving. So never thought I would do that in my life. But I was able to get enough. Fortunately, I had enough left over and had kept it that I had enough to do that. So the gnome is off to State Fair. And then I also, and I didn't bring everything to show you, but well, there it goes. The hat that I spun for, I'm going to enter that. And then I also have my sweater, my yoked sweater. I got that put together and freshened up, and actually, well, it's right over here. Let me grab it. I've worn this on the podcast several times, but I finished it off with some wooden buttons that I had been intending for like 2 years to put it on. In order to enter in our state fair, the guidelines say that the item has to be completed within 2 years. I finished knitting this just under 2 years ago, but then I also put the buttons on 2 days ago. So we're gonna call that finished. But I finished this sweater up, got it all spiffed up, made sure the blocking was good. I had just washed this not too long ago. I had to do the same thing and find a little bit of the leftover yarn that I was saving for any darning purposes or whatever, or for putting on the buttons, and made some roving back out of the scraps. And this was actually a bit from another project that I had. Same dyer, the 100th sheep, same wool, same color that was in here, because this I spun several years ago and I did not have any more left of it. But I had a similar colorway. The whole point of this, when we were meeting and deciding on what we wanted, was we wanted to see the type of fiber, the type of prep, and then also just to kind of some way to ensure that it was actually hand spun. So I have my sweater, my hat, and my gnome are going to be my entries into the hand spun handmade. And then I also have a couple things like my colorwork mittens. I got that all those are blocked and tagged and ready to go. And then I have a number, and they just took a nosedive. But I have a number of, I got 9 skeins. My goal was to have 12, but I got 9 handspun categories to enter. So some of this was, I basically took all of my handspun skeins from the last year, basically, and then I had to match them up with categories that were offered. So I sat down with the fair book and went through the categories, and okay, this has silk in it, this one has llama, this one is fine, this one's bulky. A couple of these things I actually like the bulky. I don't often spin bulky, but I did go ahead and do a skein. I think I've shown this already, specifically for the fair, which made it interesting because one of the things you have to do is attach a tag to it. Again, each person that sponsors a category can specify what information, but in this case, I needed to know approximate wraps per inch, what the fiber was, and then every category pretty much says what is your intention for the finished yarn. What do you plan to, what were you spinning for? Now, in all honesty, a lot of us are spinning for the fair. Spinning for an entry is kind of our purpose. But in this case, I just kind of assigned it, and really honestly, I probably will use this for a bulky hat. I'll have to obviously get some more yardage from something else, but I think this would be a fun contrast color. So I had to, again, make up my entry tickets, get those all prepared, again, consult the fair book and find out what information that particular category had to have, and then make sure that the 2 tags actually match. I had to unlabel some because I had crossed the tags and the tickets. Details. But a lot of that is what entering things in the fair is about. For instance, my nitty naughty is 1 3/4 yards. So when I take things off of my spinning wheel and wind them off the bobbin, my skeins are usually 1 3/4. So fair standards, you have to have at least 40 yards in a 2-yard skein. So last year, I couldn't decide exactly what to do, and I had been using like laying it out on the floor the one year that I entered, and I was trying to measure the yardage. Well, this last year, I figured out that I have a warping board that I got to go with one of my looms. And a warping board is a way that if you're not a weaver, I don't know that I consider myself a weaver, but I have a lot of weaving supplies, which come in handy sometimes, like this time. So I was able to take my warping board, which is what you use to measure out warp and make a longer warp. I'm not a good one to describe that, but I do know that it is a measuring device for thread and yarn to use on a loom. So I took my warping board and a tape measure and measured which pegs I needed to go around in order to make a 2-yard circumference, basically. So that meant putting my skeins, my 1 3/4 yard skeins, onto my Swift and winding it around and around and around to get my 2-yard skeins. And then another thing that I was taught, and we had this really sweet lady that was a friend of our guild. She wasn't really a member, but she worked closely with our guild and a lot of the people in it. And I actually did some traveling. She passed away this last year, but she was very involved in state sheep raising, worked for the state extension, and was instrumental in getting a lot of these categories, a fiber competition for State Fair started. So I remember she did a seminar for us one year at a retreat on how to enter things into a skein competition. So I still remember Helen talking at length about how to prepare a proper skein. And she was so good at it and made it a lot of fun. But one of the things that floored me at the time was she said, now a proper skein will have 4 ties, and that's in the book, in the guidelines. It'll have 4 figure 8 ties around the skein to keep it proper and neat, and you need to use the same yarn, some of the yarn that you spun to make the ties. And I was horrified that you would waste some of that yarn to make a neat skein. I'd always just tied it with crochet cotton or leftover from, and I still do that. But she was right, because when it comes down to it, the skeins, the ties don't stand out too much on the skein. So it does make a really neat and tidy skein, and one that I am proud to enter. So I have 9 skeins that I got prepared, and if I can get them all together here, there you go. So there's my entries into State Fair for the spinning competition this year. Wide variety, anything from super lace weight to very bulky, natural, colored. Most of these skeins you have seen me spin in the last year. So I'm excited in all their tags. This took me a couple hours to get all together. So, and then one of them, as I showed you last time, is the skein and swatch competition. So I showed you my swatch, and I was able to get the matching skein put together. It dried overnight last night, and I got it all measured and put into a nice neat skein, and I am very happy to have these all ready. And really, I guess it sounds cliche, but just this is what I was going for, was being able to get a lot more spinning done in the last year than I have in previous years. So it gave me a purpose, kind of a focus, and having the fair book from last year, keeping that. They usually update that late spring, I think it is, for that year's fair. But I kept the one from last year, and the categories don't change radically. And a lot of times if something fits one category, even if that category dropped, like most of these I could put in a couple different categories in the fair. So I just kept last year's fair catalog and kind of used that as almost like my make 9 for this year in spinning. So I am already looking, I have these done, and I haven't even sent these to the fair. I am already trying to get my entries together, kind of in my head, making my list of what I want to do for next year, and get started on that. So whatever happens, entry or prize wise, hopefully I'll get a ribbon or two, but I've kind of already succeeded in my goal, just getting them done. Many of these are things that I had, rovings that I've had for quite some time, and it gave me an excuse, a goal to actually get them spun up. How many of the ones sitting in my bins here will get spun up for next year? Stay tuned. So that's kind of been my spinning. I've spent more time organizing what I have spun than actually doing much spinning. So I'm anxious to get the wheel greased back up. And as I told you last time, I was a miserable failure for Tour de Fleece this year. I think I probably spun less during that, however many days it was, than I had in all year so far. So yeah, total wipeout. Didn't make it through the first stage, but I'm very happy with the spinning that I have had done in the last year cumulatively, and able to get them up to State Fair. So we'll see. I will send those off. I believe they are taking them this coming weekend up to State Fair, and then so Saturday or Sunday they're going up to Sedalia and getting all those entered for me, and then the fair starts the following week. So we'll see. I will let you know how that goes as soon as I know. And then as far as knitting goes, again, I got the buttons finished on that sweater, which was something that I just needed kind of the kick to actually get that done. I thought about not doing it because it worked. I tend to just throw it on and not button it up anyway. And the buttons are just for the top, like third of the sweater. It's just on the yoke. So I didn't really need them, but I'm very pleased once I got it done. I'm very pleased with how it looks. So I'm glad I got that finished. And then I also got, and you've seen this before, but I was able to get these finished. This is West Yorkshire Spinners, and it just had a color number, I believe, but it is 20%, I think, BFL. It does have some nylon content. And I started these the end of May at my niece's graduation when I bought the yarn at McKinney Knittery. I told you all about that story, and I finally got these done. They are the Vanilla is the New Black with the ribbed heel. This has kind of become one of my standard sock patterns. And let's see, I did these cuff down, and basically they match fairly well. So there was one part, and I don't know if there was one spot here at the heel. I don't know if I got an extra row in a heel or a gusset somewhere, but the funny thing was the coloring is off between the two there, but then when you got back down here, they matched up again. So I don't know what happened with that, but I'm very pleased. These feel like they're going to be really nice, durable socks. So I have not worn them yet. I just finished Kitchenering the last heel yesterday. So thank you for the encouragement, because had I not been planning on podcasting, realizing I was going to podcast today, these would probably still be in the project bag. So those are done, and I have 3 more pairs of socks that are about half done. So I had actually forgotten, I can't believe I forgot about my Yours Rainbow socks that I was doing 2 at a time. Completely forgot about that. So I need to pick those up. They were at the point of, I was doing them cuff down, and I was at the point of turning the heel. And I guess I was just a little bit, at that point it didn't become very good purse knitting to turn 2 heels at 2 at a time. And I've watched several videos. I know there's different ways. Some people do all of one heel and then do all the next heel. Some people split them and then put them back on 2 needles. I haven't decided which way I want to do it. To be honest, I haven't decided which kind of heel I want to use. So that may make a difference. So I need to get back to those because I'm really anxious to get wearing them. And then the other thing that I did, I had shown you that I got the kit for Harriet's hat about, oh goodness, has it been almost 2 months ago now? And so I was saving this, but I kind of needed a fun project. I was I needed something that wasn't socks, and everything else was, I'd started a couple things, didn't like them, tore them out, and so I thought I am just going to get working on this hat. So there we are. I am 5 rows, I believe, from starting the crown decreases. So I am almost there. And again, my color work is not great. I like the way this is looking on the front. It's not bad at all. I've never worked with, this is 6 colors. Never worked with 6 colors. And to be honest, I'm not really sure, and I am open for hints and techniques. I don't like this. There's a lot of ends. I wasn't really sure whether to carry them up or like I normally would with just 1 or 2 colors or 3 colors, but with 6 and places where I knew I wasn't going to be using it for like an inch or so. I think that was kind of my mental standard. I went ahead, like for instance, I was done with the white here and I knew I wasn't going to need it again until here. So I went ahead and cut the white because my initial plan was just to carry it all the way up like I normally would with just a couple colors. But it wasn't, I don't know if I can show you. It just wasn't carrying up there as neatly. I was having a hard time wrapping it, if that makes any sense, between rows. So I don't this is messy. And I'm calling it as a learning experience. I also didn't do a fantastic job with the color jog here. I could have done a lot better. I am making a list of techniques that I need to work on. So I'm happy with it. I like it. I definitely need more practice. Oh shucks, that means I need to do more. And I am hoping, this is just a bag that I made some time ago, and I've got all 6 colors. That one popped out, but I've got them all nestled in there. And honestly, they're 25. This is Jamieson and Smith 2-ply. I think it's 2-ply jumper weight is what they call it. And so they're 25 gram balls. And I'm really thinking, just looking at it now, I haven't used half of any of them, I don't believe. Not even the one I've used the most of. So I'm kind of thinking, because I got about, well, this was the halfway point row-wise. And like I said, I've only got another 5 rows, 7 rows, something like that, before I start the crown decreases. So I was well over halfway at this point when I was able to have enough to put it on my head to see how it fit. Now, background for me, I rarely make a hat that fits. Rarely ever. And I think I've said that before. And this one, it was only in one size, which is fine. It's hard to size things with color work, but most of the time my hats end up too big. I have, I guess, a small head. What is the Pooh quote? A bear of very little brain. So I am a bear of very little brain, and usually the hats that I make swamp me, even when they're 2 gauge. So I knew this was just a smidge off on gauge, and I thought really that was going to be fine. And when I did the corrugated rib at the bottom, which, oh my goodness, corrugated rib is so much fun, but so slow for me. But by the time, and there's actually all the colors, I believe, in here, they're very subtle. But when I got the corrugated rib and kind of, stretched it out a little bit, I thought it was going to be just fine. So I am working the color work, I've forgotten, on a 3.25 millimeter. I believe that is, I want to say I went one size up. Nope, that is the recommended needle size. So 3 millimeter on the corrugated rib, and then the 3.25 on the hat. It fits. Now that I have enough to really try it on, it does go on my head. It looks and feels very snug. So at one point, I thought about just ripping the whole thing out and trying again with a slightly larger needle. But I'm really curious what this is going to block out. And I know that color work, you don't want to stretch it a lot because then you start to see the floats between the stitches. So I went ahead and decided I'm going to go ahead and do it, especially when I looked at the amount of yarn that I had left, because I'm really kind of thinking that I may have to change a color or two, but maybe swap around a color. Just I don't know. I really think I'm probably going to have enough to make 2 or very, very close to it. So I went ahead and, like I said, this May I can wear it, and if it blocks out even just a 1/4 of an inch bigger, it's gonna be okay. If not, I'll find somebody that would like a small hat, and I will try making another one. So that's what I've been knitting on. And really that's been about it. So another episode with, well, okay, I was gonna say not a whole lot of knitting, but this has been a lot of knitting. It's a small piece, but I am definitely not fast. As far as homesteading go, we did have, oh my goodness, it seems like months ago now, but we did have chicken processing day and got that over and behind us. We talked about doing another batch of chicks, and Mom said, you know, I really think I am done with doing our own butchering. So that may be behind us as well. And right now we're just enjoying having the hens. We found a, excuse me, somebody that was looking for a rooster, and so we did rehome my rooster, Charles, and I have not been waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning anymore, which has kind of been nice. I don't have to worry about my neighbors getting tired of listening to him, and my poor hens are no longer getting pecked on. So all is good in that respect. So I have, yeah, the chickens are laying well for summer. They're starting to molt, I think. And so I'm looking forward to them getting their real adult. Usually after the first year, the first big molt, they kind of get their true feathers in and they get really pretty. So I'm hoping that that will happen. And let's see. Oh, and then we are getting a little bit out of the garden. Haven't done a lot, but corn is all in. Mom actually made a batch of pickle relish last night. We had enough cucumbers coming in, so we got that done, or she got that done. I wasn't able to help this year. I was at work, and I came home and the kitchen smelled wonderful. I love the smell of pickle relish when you're processing it. I don't know, something weird, but I think it smells really, really good. That vinegar pickle smell. So we got that done. I posted on Instagram a picture of our popcorn ears. We have a very small patch of popcorn this year, and it has red tassels on it, and it just looked like something. I posted up the caption, said something about, I think Dr. Seuss must have used popcorn as a model for some of his paintings, because it just has this funny looking, if I can find it, I'll put that picture at the end. I thought it would just look so funny. And so we're hoping that that will maybe have time to mature. Last year we had trouble with some of it not maturing in time. So we'll see what happens with that. I am in the middle of major reconstruction in my house. In fact, I wasn't even sure I was going to get a chance to podcast because of all the construction noise. But I'm getting insulation and siding. My house is old enough that it doesn't actually have insulation in most of it. So I'm trying to be a little bit more energy efficient, and I'm getting some good siding put on, I hope. So it has been a mess because, of course, when they started taking the old siding off, I knew that I had some rotten wood in my house, and I knew that when I was working on the hardwoods, restoring those, and I was able to actually see down into the foundation because some of the wood was rotted away. Not a good thing. So I had to have somebody come in, and of course, there's always worse than they think originally, right? So it's kind of the 2-day job has turned into a week job with a whole lot more mess and a whole lot more noise. But I hope, I trust that I'm going to be really happy with it in the end. And hopefully this winter it will be much warmer and cozier in my little house. The other big homesteading thing, I think I had made a crack a couple months ago about my bees none of them had made it through the winter. I had a couple hives here at my house, and they didn't make it through the winter a couple of years ago. So I was kind of out of the beekeeping business, and that wasn't a bad thing because there's just so much else going on. And then a friend of mine, I had actually gifted a bunch of my equipment to, and she said, I'll give it back to you one of these days when you're ready for them, and I'll give you some bees. So she told me the beginning of the summer that if she had a chance to split some of her hives, she would gift me with a hive of bees again. And that didn't seem to be happening. Didn't quite be, we just had, again, I've said it's a weird season. And so she wasn't making the splits she thought she would. And then she left on vacation. Well, I was really kind of figuring we weren't going to do anything this year. And then last night I got a text from her saying, hey, I'm back and your bees are ready. Totally not prepared. Absolutely thrilled. There is like this siren song to me of bees. I have no business getting bees going again. I don't have the time, the energy. But when you're offered a beehive, so I went out to her place last night. Back up, I've been doing chores for my friend Darlene, who's the shepherd that I got all of the fleeces from this year and last year. And she asked if she was at a yarn show with her booth, and she asked if I would come out and do chores for her. So I've been doing chores the last couple weekends for her, and that puts me halfway to Melissa's house. So when she texted, I said, well, actually I'm going out to Darlene's tonight, so I will, if you're going to be home this evening, I can come pick them up. So I went over and picked them up, and they are in the cutest little mini nuke. A nuke is kind of like a half of a hive. It just has a few frames in it, and I need to, her husband had built these cute little mini hives that they have been making splits in. So I brought home, rather than putting them all into a big hive and having to carry that, which can just be very awkward, I just kept the little mini hive and the nuke and brought that home last night. It was too late to do anything with it then. This morning I went out to get my bee suit so I could get them all situated, and a mouse had gotten into my bee suit. As best I can tell, there are no holes, but it needed to be washed before I put it on. So I got it washed this morning. It is currently hanging on my clothesline, and I need to go out as soon as I finish this, because I didn't want to get all hot and sweaty out there working with the bees before I recorded. So I'm going to finish this and then jump into my bee suit and go out and try to get those frames out of the mini hive into the regular hive and get them some sugar water, because at this point in the year, it's a little bit of a gamble starting with that small of a group. They seem to be doing well. They've got a lot of population in those 3 frames. So I'm hoping that with a lot of fall flowers coming on and feeding them consistently, I'll probably be feeding them all fall and into the winter using solid food, pollen patties, things like that this winter. But hopefully that will put me in a position that I'll have a good hive in the spring. So absolutely foolish, but I am thrilled to have bees again. The whole time I was at her place, I kept saying, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do this, I can't do this, but I can't say no. So apparently I am back into the beekeeping. That has been my crazy couple weeks. So yeah, lots of odds and ends, chaotic, lots of things coming up, lots of things to start, new adventures, newbies. We will see how all of that goes. So I would love to know what you are doing. What is your, oh my goodness, like we're getting into fall now. So what are you looking forward to this fall? What events, what projects are you working on? Are you going to be going to a fiber festival? I am going to one, and I'm not going to give you the details yet because they're not all quite in place yet, but I am going to be going to one fiber show. That's probably it this year for me. So I went to ZK earlier this summer. That was a lot of fun, and I have not made it to any of the other festivals in our area, so I'm trying for one this year. We'll see. And as soon as I have everything nailed down in place, I'm really excited and I will tell you all about it. So that's what's coming ahead for me. I have got my spinning wheels empty. Those need to be filled back up. I need to get going on some new projects. I just have to decide which one. So I'll be working on something new and hopefully have my hat finished, all finished for next episode. And I've got a couple quilts that are just about ready to show, not quite put together yet. So I'm hoping that I have a couple good crafting 2 weeks ahead. And whatever you are working on, I hope you have a wonderful couple weeks as well. So until I see you next time, may your gathering basket overflow with blessings. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.